and large, I've stayed away from those predictor things, where you log in and you basically predict every Premier League fixture between now until the end of the season, and they number crunch in it, it goes through the supercomputer, and then lets you know the whole league table, but primarily, if you're a West Ham fan, lets you know whether West Ham are going to survive or not. I've not done it for a little while, not because I've got anything against it. I'm probably just lazy, really, and I always thought it would get to a point and then I would do it. And I don't know what I was waiting for. But anyway, couldn't help but look at the fixtures that as I record this now, which is obviously Tuesday night, there's been some Premier League fixtures. I'm just record this video ahead of the Newcastle game tonight on Wednesday. And I couldn't help but feel, I don't know, almost overjoyed, I think, a little bit at the results, which went our way. There's no other way of putting it, really. I mean, it could be argued that the Leeds versus Nottingham Forest game was tight, but I always fancied Leeds had momentum. I don't think Leeds are going to be down there at the bottom, so Nottingham Forest were the ones anyway. But I was overjoyed, and it just goes to show you how much pressure there is with being in the relegation zone as a fan. So I was really, really pleased, actually. Look, we've still got to do our bit, and there's still a lot of hard work to do, and I still struggle to have a massive amount of faith in the manager. But you look at the table now, it looks a lot better, particularly with a couple of games in hand. One of them, obviously, against Newcastle, which is, we'll know whatever come 9:45 a Wednesday evening, whether that's a good thing or not. Another one's against Manchester City. However, the little buffer zone does look decent, doesn't it? And I'm still not done this little predictor thing, but as I look at it now, if I had to name 3 teams now, it would probably be Southampton, Leicester and Forest would be the ones. Which would be a great irony, really, if it was Forest and Leicester, because there'd be 2 other teams that had retained their manager. Obviously, Leicester had just got rid of theirs in Rodgers, but up to a point, up to a very, very late point at least. But it was good, and I am pleased. And I think it may well mean that David Moyes possibly plays for a draw tonight. Because he likes a bit of that, but you know what? If he plays for that and he gets it, it would be a good point. I absolutely think that, and it just goes to show, come down to the business end of the season, and it is anyone from Palace down, but some are looking healthier than others. I would include Palace in that. I'd certainly include Leeds in that. One of the only games I didn't watch in the previous game week was Everton against Tottenham. Obviously, I know the result, and I know that it was a very, very late goal that clinched the point. But Everton maybe have a little bit of momentum. I certainly think Leeds do as well. I know Bournemouth lost to Brighton, but up until now, they look to be playing well. I wouldn't say they have ultimate momentum, because they have over the last few months been able to win and then lose, but they do seem to bounce back and win again. Forest at the moment just look like they're going to lose all the time. The other one was obviously Leicester City losing to Aston Villa. Didn't watch it. I know there was a red card. No, Leicester got a red card, because I literally just read it off the screen before I started to record this video. And it's 2-1, and you almost wonder, even if that was a close game, and the scoreline's certainly close, you wonder if that was it, if that was the roll of the dice. I certainly don't think that Leicester had anything wrong with their manager. I think Rodgers is a good manager. I do think that they're in this sort of precarious position that they are because of, because they've a real lack of investment, which is understandable. I mean, the company that, first of all, they lost. The owner died, didn't he, in a helicopter crash in a match against West Ham. And I understand that the business was heavily, heavily hit by COVID. So I just don't think they could invest, and they've had to sell a lot of their best players. So I sort of get it. They've got that downward trajectory, haven't they, Leicester? And then just maybe, we might be all right this season. And I hope we are, and I really hope that David Moyes actually doesn't play for the draw and he goes for the win. And obviously I want us to win this game against Newcastle, because I'd love us to get to the point where everyone else keeps doing crap and then we start to do a little bit better, and it does allow us to focus on the Conference League, really. That would be really, really good to do that. And it's amazing how quickly it switches, isn't it? And there's no way to cut and paste it and try and make out that this has been a good season. It's been a season of worry. It's been a season of a pretty crap football. And I think, there's going to be a lot of things that probably need addressing at the end of the season if we survive. But I'm just looking at it thinking, look, one step at a time, mate. Let's get through today. Skamaka's got another injury. We always get, when myself and Gio do our build-up show, irrespective of the team news in the build-up the last couple of days, we'll always get somebody asking, where's such and such? Where's such and such? Which I get it. Not everybody's got the time to follow all these sort of fine details and nuances of West Ham, and they get to the match day and they think, okay, why is such and such not featuring? So I would expect, people will be saying, where's Skamaka? Well, he's injured, isn't he? I mean, he's spent a lot of his first season injured. With that in mind, I do hope that David Moyes starts with Antonio. Found his admission, as you would have known if you watched yesterday's video. I was astonished when Gio told me that David Moyes basically said, I'm figuring out Danny Ings. I mean, that doesn't sit well with me, particularly when he's gone on about, so I don't, what was it recently? I'm not an expert on Aston Villa. I don't know what Aston Villa are doing. Anyway, I don't want to overly spend loads of time digging out David Moyes because I hope he gets the win tonight. But with that in mind, if we just accept and take it on face value that he hasn't sussed out what position or what system best suits Danny Ings, David Moyes' words, by the way, if we accept his words, and then we also probably realise that he's not going to do something about it, and we look at the evidence before our own eyes, which is the last game, which was it didn't look like it had worked, whether you want to blame Danny Ings or David Moyes, or even me, as somebody did yesterday, for pointing it out, then even if you just accept that's the case, Antonio, I would imagine would be the choice up front, bearing in mind Skamaka's not going to feature. Like to see Cornet play. I would like to see Cornet. I guess it didn't matter. Ultimately, it didn't matter that he didn't get any minutes against Southampton because we won, right? But I thought we might well have benefited as a team, as a squad, from him having, a little 10 minutes there or something like that. If you watch yesterday's video, you know what I think the big issue is, and it is Thomas Souček. It's And as I say, I can't keep saying it. I don't want to, it's almost like giving a disclaimer every time. I don't blame Souček. I do blame Moyes for it because his position changed. But even if we accept that Souček's had his position changed, he's making a handful of passes, 52% pass success rate last game. A game before that, made only 9 passes in the whole game. A couple of games before that, I think he made, again, 11 passes in the whole game. Or was it 10, something like that? I think you might find out of his last 5-6 games, he's only just reached double figures. He's either done 9, 10 or 11 passes in all the games. You can't have that. And even if David Moyes possibly can't suss out that it's his own fault that Souček is playing like that, he clearly doesn't have the solution. I think it's really important he doesn't pick him in the game. I mean, somebody pointed out in the comments yesterday that actually Souček's role might have been just to stop James Ward-Prowse. Actually, it wasn't that video. It was the video from the day before, but his tackling stats were awful. His duels, he kept on losing all the duels. He didn't even win all his headers and stuff like that. It was really hard to make a case that he even if he was in there for the tackling and the interceptions, he wasn't even doing those. He was basically losing out. So, yeah, I hope that David Moyes does that. I do think his best chance of doing something against Newcastle will be to actually drop Souček, because I think they'll probably run rings around him. I don't think he will. I think he'll probably stick with it. I think the right back's going to be an interesting one. Hey, look, you know all this. If you've watched myself and Gio's preview on the Newcastle game, then you'll know all this. If you haven't, go and check it out. It's over on the main channel. We uploaded it 2 days ago. Interesting, really interesting one. But there's a real opportunity here to actually put ourselves in a position where we put some real daylight between us and some of the other clubs that are struggling. And that's not to be sniffed at, is it? It's not going to be easy. It's definitely going to be tough. I mean, Almiron's out, but they'll probably just play. I don't know what they'll do. They might even just play Gordon there or something like that. And it's going to be a nightmare for anyone who's got a marks at maximum. Bruno's Guimaraes is playing well. Isak, skinny, isn't he? Isak. And needs a couple of pies, a couple of donuts. You could tell I'm not the nutritionist for any football team, that's for sure. But he looks dangerous, dangerous and thin. Let's put a bit like myself, really. So yeah, I mean it's going to be tough. Going to be tough against them, but I'm pretty sure David Moyes will go on the counter attack, and that's another good reason to certainly play to play Miguel Antonio. Anyway, join myself and Gio, hour and 5 minutes before kick-off. I'm less nervous about the Newcastle game than I was about the Southampton game. There's two reasons for that. The obvious one is we won against Southampton, so we moved ourselves up the table a bit. The other reason is for the reason I just said. It is Leeds beating Forest, it is Brighton beating Bournemouth, and it is Aston Villa beating Leicester City. It couldn't really have gone much better at all. Anyway, there you go. I'll catch up with you hour and 5 minutes before kick-off. Myself and Gio will be doing the build-up show. Little cheeky bet. Hopefully win one of you, some of you, some money. And yeah, we'll see you hour and 5 minutes before KO.